Hello and welcome to the fifth and penultimate video in the series documenting Anglesey, A Bridge Through Time, the creative artifact of my PhD research at Bangor University. This video will look at the Voices section of the website. This is the blogs collection, which shows a diversity of voices. It's 11 personal reflections on Anglesey heritage by 8 different authors, all of which were recruited or discovered by the researcher, who also edited them, obtained permissions, and found images to illustrate them. So you can see 6 of the authors there, and then there's another page where there are 2 more authors. And let's go back to the first page. I'm not sure what happened to the picture of Charles Dickens. At launch, when I stopped working on the website and lost access to it, there was a photo here of Charles Dickens, probably a photo or a drawing, some sort of image of Charles Dickens here, which has subsequently been removed for some reason. Authors here range from a medieval Welsh language poet, David F. Gwilym, through to Charles Dickens, whose piece chronicles the great 1859 shipwreck at Marlborough on Anglesey, and he visited Anglesey at that time, to a spiritual reflection by a contemporary follower of Druidism, Chris Hughes, who is the founder and head of the Anglesey Druid Order, to a memoirist's recollection of growing up on Anglesey during the Second World War, and those are the 3 pieces written by Brian Hope. These essays constitute another similar triangular methodological loop, moving from design studies, which emphasizes multivocality for heritage as advanced by critical heritage studies, through to design exploration, employing a democratizing goal through the multivocality, in a design practice setting, which is the website itself. That is all explicated further in the written portion of the dissertation. This area was meant to grow and expand over the life of the website. It was later blocked when the council denied the researcher website access, so it didn't grow. But it was intentionally and intended to be seeded, and it was seeded with these 11 essays, with these diverse perspectives, in order to present a wide-ranging welcome to further contributors of many backgrounds. So again, I'm just going to take you through these quickly so you can see what they were. This is a poem written about Anglesey landscape from the author Elizabeth Birtles, who is a retired minister who lives on the island. And I would just encourage you to go back and read that at your leisure. Here is the Charles Dickens piece called The Shipwreck. And this did have an author picture here, which has been removed subsequently. And this does have illustrations throughout the body, but not very many. Okay, and a comment section at the bottom. I'll go back to the Voices homepage. This David F. Gwilym wrote this wonderful poem in praise of Newborough sometime in the 1200s. Really interesting, and I encourage you to read that now. And there's also commentary about it by a medieval scholar who now lives on Anglesey to explain what the poem is about and why it's important and what it means. So that's a really interesting piece, and I encourage you to read it again at your leisure. So let's go back to the Voices homepage, or the Voices landing page. And we'll look at Brian Hope, our next author. Now that illustrates the author landing pages. We had to design this way in case authors wanted to contribute more than one essay. So here you can see Brian contributed 3 different essays about his childhood and growing up in Amlwch during the Second World War. This was, again, pretty tricky to illustrate, but I was able to find, this is a stock photo of some Second World War soldiers during the Home Guard during the Second World War who visited. This is specifically, the essay is specifically about meeting some American soldiers in Amlwch in World War II. So I was able to find this from the U.S. National Archives, which illustrates U.S. troops visiting a small British village. So let's go on to the next, please. Chris Hughes, as I said, is the founder and head of the Anglesey Druid Order. So he is a contemporary practicing Druid priest, and you can imagine that some of these heritage sites have a special spiritual and religious meaning for him. So I really enjoyed this personal perspective. Again, this is about multivocality, right? It's about demonstrating that heritage sites mean different things to different people. And so getting a diverse group of people to comment on their experiences of Anglesey heritage demonstrates that. This is Rhys Mewen, who we've also met before. He was a curator of the site in Clygwig, and he also contributed this personal narrative about his experience as a tour guide on Anglesey. So that is another interesting piece, a personal piece, which demonstrates again the multivocality. Let's go on to page 2. Sarah Ellen Roberts is the medieval scholar who introduced me to the David ap Gwilym poem, and she wanted to expand upon her ideas in that by writing about what poetry meant in medieval Wales. That poets were actually very important people in the kingdoms of medieval Wales. And so this is an essay that she wrote with some beautiful illustrations that I managed to find to illustrate it. And there's some related links there and a picture of Sarah. And one last one is R.S. Thomas, who is a very famous English language poet who grew up in Holyhead, which is a town on Anglesey. And I was very fortunate to be able to contact his son, who allowed me the rights to both edit his essay, because it's much longer than this, but I wanted to look at the Anglesey specific portions of it. And these are actually some beautiful recollections that R.S. Thomas wrote about his time growing up in rural Anglesey. It's quite a beautiful piece. And again, these voices, 8 voices, 11 different pieces, were meant to seed this. This area was meant to grow over time as the website grew. It was meant to expand. It was part of the plan for sustainability in the long run. Thank you for listening.